Oh, is it?
Scott Walker tries to change welfare rules so he can drug test people who need food stamps. Drew, have at it there, buddy.
Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, Republican, sued the federal government Tuesday in an effort to protect a new program to drug test food stamp recipients. Walker signed the state's budget into law Sunday, which included a provision to start drug testing people who applied for food stamps. But given that states have little leeway in making changes to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, federal officials were expected to block the program as they did when Georgia tried to drug test food stamp applicants last year. Walker preemptively challenged them by having his health secretary file a lawsuit. In it, the administration argued that food stamp recipients are welfare recipients and therefore may be tested and sanctioned for the use of controlled substances. Unlike food stamps, states have broad leeway to make changes to the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program, known as welfare, such as instituting drug tests. Last year, Republicans in Congress attempted to pass legislation that would allow states to drug test food stamp applicants, but failed to pass it. Other things could endanger Walker's hopes of drug testing those who apply for food stamps. He also made changes to the budget that lifted limits on which applicants can be tested rather than only testing those who fall under reasonable suspicion. A similar program for drug testing TANF applicants was halted in Florida last year as a result of the federal appeals court decision that Citizens United constitutional protection from unreasonable searches, stating that drug test welfare applicants have found that the costs of the programs are high without producing many results. Welfare applicants use drugs at lower rate than the general population does, and yet some states spend hundreds of thousands of dollars administering these tests. The cost of drug testing programs go beyond the finances. Mandatory drug testing would further stigmatize public benefit recipients and could discourage those in poverty from reaching out of their assistance. It also encourages the assumption that drug use causes people to turn to welfare, and that people who benefit from welfare use drugs.
Wow, Drew, you can continue if you want. You got anything to say on this? Look, what I want to ask actually before you go, then, Drew, is how do you buy drugs with food stamps? I mean, like, I don't think.
Well, I know there are
question,
no,
probably,
there are ways. There are
you can trade food stamps for it, I guess.
You can trade like $200 worth of food stamps for like $100 for some like cash.
Not really food stamps. It's EBT card now. So
yeah. So basically, you can misuse those, but for what they're, I guess, missing here is that the vast majority of people, they tried this here in Florida. They tried to drug test welfare recipients, and they got like 1% out of all these people, like 1%, because people don't have the extra money for drugs. They need that fucking food. They have like families to support and shit. And mind you, of the 1% that did, and let's say it was like 10%. Let's say I have food stamps, and my neighbor's like, "Hey, I got a joint. You want to smoke?" And I'm like, "Okay." That didn't mean I spent any of the food stamp money, and I still failed the fucking drug test. So it makes absolutely no sense to assume automatically that anyone that fails a drug test like is using their food stamp money or government assistance in any way to like purchase drugs. I understand it can be abused, but it's been proven over and over that the vast majority, they put tight regulations. Here in Florida, unemployment is 6 weeks. You cannot live on unemployment. It's a farce to say that people they're just like living the high life on the government dime. Like that does not fucking happen. They put regulations in place to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, and the whole point of doing this in the first place is supposedly under the banner of saving the taxpayers' money. And what they find out is that it's just completely not worth it to the taxpayers because all the drug testing is paid for by the taxpayers. And when I've told people that here in Texas, they said like, well, yeah, but the people that fail, they have to pay for their own. And I'm like, okay, but that percent is like 1% out of everybody that they're testing.
Yeah, you'll be putting out more money than it's needed.
You're going to be spending the money on welfare anyways, and now you're wanting to up and like do drug testing and like they're not coming back.
Well, here in Florida, it was kind of a scandal because it was Rick Scott pushing for this, and then the company that was doing the drug testing was his wife's.
Yeah, that's not some shady shit, right?
Yeah,
Rick Scott's not a shady guy at all. He was the CEO who got let go with the biggest fine ever for like ripping off the government, and then we elected him our fucking governor a few years later. We're fucking so stupid here in Florida, man.
Yeah, it is. Some welfare statistics here, since we're talking about it. Total number of Americans on welfare is 11,400,000. Total number of Americans on food stamps is 41 million. Total number of Americans on unemployment insurance, 10 million. And percentage of U.S. population on welfare is 4.1%. So total government spent on welfare annually is $131 billion. Yeah,
and I guess you could also go into, it's just another thing where they've convinced people that the biggest problem is like, poor people on those kinds of assistances and stuff. Never mind the fact that rich people, because of like tax loopholes and corporate welfare, we lose like $300 billion every year because of that. It's like, no, we need to, drug test the fucking food stamp recipients because that's where the waste is.
Yeah.
Never mind the people who work full time for like Walmart or some other company that underpays them and they don't get paid a living wage, so they depend on food stamps even though they work full time.
Well, that's what happened with a girl in my work here. Sorry to cut you up, Paul, but a girl in my work I hired. She's one of my parts employees, and she's trying to make a living. She's trying to make a better life. She works full time. She makes about $35,000 a year. She's 23 years old. She just had her second kid with two different guys, which could be a whole nother story there if we want to talk about that. She's never been married, but then again, this is why.
You sound like Bill O'Reilly, bro.
Actually, that's been proven to cause problems, but yeah.
But what I'm saying is, then you have these people that are so, they want to implement laws like this, but then again, they're against abortion and contraception. You know what I mean? That women can't get contraception for free from their, from their work, from their place of employment. I just like, like her, like she said, she goes, if I go forward, which is not that much money for, contraceptives, but, she said it'd be nice if I had it for free, But then again, she was anti-abortion and she just, she had the kids, you know what I mean? So, I understand that could be a reason. But Armoured Skeptic, got anything to say on that? Or on this?
I don't. There's other programs in existence in the States that required people to take drug tests if they're on some form of welfare, right?
Well, I mean, okay, not really government wise, like.
Well, we got people on disability. Disability is
disability. Maybe if you're getting prescribed pain medication, if you have something like that, they'll piss test you to make sure you're not doing other drugs along with the pain medication, shit like that. Maybe for some certain vet benefits, but not just to have food.
Right. Yeah. Well,
that's a little different story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little insulting to say that we weren't willing to feed people if they're on drugs. It's a different thing to say to give them room and board, but to say that they can't eat.
Yeah, and if they are on drugs, it's not going to happen. If they were on drugs,
what about their fucking kids?
Not giving them food is only going to make it worse.
Yeah,
correct.
Even if they are a fucking crackhead with like 8 kids, you're going to punish the kids?
Yeah,
that's true too. That's a good point too, there, TJ. Yeah, absolutely.
And also, if you look at so the household has to earn a gross income that's less than 130% of the poverty line, or a net income amount that's less than 100% of the poverty line for the family size. So a single person can be eligible for food stamps if his gross income is under 1265, so 15,800 a year, or 15,180 a year, and a family of 4 can be eligible if they gross less than 2,584 a month, which is $31,008 per year. So it's not just like there's a large amount of people on food stamps because they have a very low income. It's not like these people are on food stamps because they I don't know how to put it. It's not like it's a lot of money going to them. It's not. It's like what, $100, $200 a month.
Oh yeah, but
maybe up to $300 up to $300 a household if you have a certain amount of kids, right?
What
or
about
something like that? So it's not a lot of money for food. It's enough to survive.
Yeah. But what about
forgetting here is that they spend all of that money at the grocery store. It all goes straight back into the economy, like immediately.
Correct. Yeah.
Like none of those food stamps go like unused. They all get spent at the grocery store, and whether it is on the government dime or what, it is boosting the economy that much more.
grocery store, it's actually harder to feed a family at the grocery store than it is to go to fast food, though. That's also part of the problem is, yet when you're poor, you eat really shitty food because you can't afford the good food. It's a lot easier to go to Jack in the Box and pay $9 for something that's like fucking, 1,300 calories than to go to the store and try to pay $9 to get the same amount of well-quality food and see how much you're going to spend, you know?
If what they believe is that there's a misappropriation of food stamp funds and that they're going places that they shouldn't be, the focus should not be to stranglehold the people who need the money. Instead, the focus should be making it more impossible for people to transfer those funds to anything but food.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said.
Correct.
To abuse that system, yeah.
And like I said, I think the most common form of that is like you can literally go to the store, have someone else fill up a cart and buy their food and have them pay you a fraction of whatever that cost is in cash, and then you can use that that is the easiest and most common way that it is abused. And I'm not quite sure. I don't have like a plan how to solve that. I don't know how you stop people from buying food with other people. You know what I mean? 'Cause there's no way to really check in on that. But you know,
but as far as
in the vast majority, they're using that to buy food for their own fucking families, to feed themselves or their own kids, and to punish everybody for the few bad apples. When they then turn around and say like, oh well, it's just a few bad apples when it's cops doing bad shit. They love to, I don't know. It's very one-sided the way that they view things. I'm talking about conservatives.
You know what would help out, I think, and it's just my own opinion. I could be wrong about this. Is raise the minimum wage. Maybe some of these people that are on the borderline of receiving or not receiving food stamps. Maybe this will help eliminate some of the U.S. debt when it comes to supporting. It's $131 billion a year. These corporate companies are making so much fucking money. You think they could pay their employees $15 an hour or $13 an hour?
Well, yeah, it's like they have to do like like Walmart is the number one employer in America now. It didn't used to be like this, but that's how it is
look at
now.
their profits.
And
Wow.
they still, they've upped what they pay like a little bit, but it's still not shit compared to what they could pay. And but a lot of their employees are like seriously, like TJ was saying, working full-time jobs and still having to get government assistance and food stamps and shit like that.
Yep.
That's outrageous. That's ridiculous.
Well, corporations like McDonald's and Walmart, what they do is they intentionally flood their employee base with part-timers and don't give them enough hours.
Correct.
This way they don't have to give them those kinds of benefits, and they basically force their employees to work for welfare, basically. So I know my brother used to work at McDonald's way back when, and he couldn't get more than 4 hours a week at one point. That's all they would give him. This is, you get people that are working like 6 jobs that are like that. But the job market is so dry right now that it's almost everybody's just working for chump change. Like
I was about to say it's so dry that you've taken up just putting on a fucking helmet and videotaping yourself talking about movies and shit.
Basically, yeah.
Damn.
Well, I'm in the restaurant business, so it's never dry for me. Not until they invent robots that can do the shit I do. Then I'm fucked. But I'll be dead by then.
Yeah, exactly.
Japan keeps teasing robotic restaurants, though.
Oh, well,
yeah. Well, I mean, I'll be dead by then, as in like I smoke and drink a lot, so I'm not going to live too much longer.